Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today. It will be definitely a delicious one, and it'll probably leave you starving. So I hope you're not too far from lunchtime or dinner time, whatever is your time frame, and so that then you can have something rewarding at the end. So I mean, Italy is one of the world's top culinary destinations and has the potential to literally overwhelm everyone from the most indifferent eaters to expert foodies with its amazing variety of world-class ingredients and dishes. Today, we are going to explore the best Italian food tours from north to south. And as usual, we will be joined by a special guest. Today is Alvise Zanus, which is one of our preferred guides in Venice, with amazing knowledge and expertise of the city. And he will talk us through, he has prepared an amazing video for us because obviously we weren't sure about the weather. So he has prepared a video for us that I'll show you, but he's connected with us, he's live with us, so he will be able to answer every question that you have. But let's get started right away. The Italian culture is earthly reflected in its unique food and wine. It has flourished with recipes passed down from family member to family member for generations. For Italians, food and culture have always gone hand in hand. The cuisine in Italy literally lets families and friends bond, as well as bring joy to local neighborhoods and regions. It's these relationships that are vital to any Italian dish and are an absolute part of it. And this also explains why there are so many food festivals in Italy devoted to everything from tomatoes to seafood, vegetables, mushroom, truffles, of course, wild boar, pasta, pizza. There is absolutely one for every taste and every ingredient. And the good thing is that you can usually find one of these festivals that in Italian are called sagre at any time of the year. I mean, every month there is something going on. The Italian culture is also about making the most of the traditional food on offer and using the local landscape to provide it. This makes a culinary journey around Italy's regions one of the best ways to really experience this country's foodie authenticity. To start, it's important to appreciate that Italy's food culture has immense regional diversity. Every dish, no matter how simple it is, has its root in the tradition and the history of that particular region. Not only this, it also usually has a regional wine that you can pair to it. So if you're traveling from north to south of Italy, you could experience thousands of different dishes across the entire country. And the diversity in the Italian food scene showcases the extent of the country's regional personality too, carried on through generations of family members, scribbled on papers or imparted verbally from kitchen to kitchen. These recipes has been kept as secret, as sacred by each family and neighborhood, so they've never been diluted, leaving you the beauty to explore each individual flavor on your travels. As a result, a food tour in Italy is a mouth-watering exploration that takes in the multicultural history of each area, sampling local dishes and learning about each region's diverse influences. So let's now start having a deeper look at some of the different regions of Italy and what food tour can be organized. So what I've done today is I've selected a few of the most let's say characterful regions where we can have a food tour. I didn't go through all of them because it could have been a very, very long webinar. So I just selected those that are probably most representative. And for each of them, I've given you samples of what can be organized in terms of food tours. Obviously, these can be single experiences if you have a half day or a full day to dedicate to this activity, or it can be combined together if you are looking for a full immersion into Italian food. And so, you have a few days and each day you can do something different. So we start with a total immersion in Piedmont gastronomic culture. Here, you can experience tasting, laboratories, hands-on activities, and unique visit to local producers. A food tour in the region can include these activities. So usually we're going to start in Turin with a walk-in tour of Turin, visiting Piazza Castello, Palazzo Madama, and Piazza San Carlo, which is the so-called living room of Turin. Elegant and rich with its many historical cafes, an elegant shopping street. Here you will stop to taste local delicacies in various cafes and to feel your energy with the famous drink of Turin, which is called the Bicerin. It's made of espresso, hot chocolate, and milk, served layered in a small shot glass. Moving to Le Langhe area, you can stop near Alba in a renovated farmhouse for an authentic experience discovering the secrets of cheese making, from seeing the sheep at pasture to visiting the cheese making workshop and obviously tasting both fresh and more mature cheeses. And not far from the cheese factory, you can take a guided tour of an hazelnut producers with a presentation of production processes and tasting of many different hazelnut products. Those are my favorite. You can discover the history and secret of the unmistakable taste of the Nocciola Piemonte IGP. You remember we discussed the IGP when we did the wine tour webinar. So this is Indicazione Geografica Protetta. So geographic protect indication, which means that this type of hazelnut is only produced in Piedmont and is one of the best in the world. Still in the area of Alba, you cannot miss a truffle hunting experience. Together with an expert trifulao, which is a word that means basically the men that go hunting for truffles, he will take you to the hidden places where truffle grows. The search could take up to 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, and after you will usually relax with a glass of wine and taste some truffle-based specialities at a nearby wine producer. These could be anything from like tagliolini with fresh truffle, eggs with truffles. There's even some type of cakes made with truffles. So a little bit of everything. Last stop for our Piedmont tour is in Asti and Vercelli to visit a rice producers. I mean, this is something quite unique and that is not usually included in normal tours. You can learn the various phases of rice cultivation and production, followed by the tasting of different type of rice and different rice-based recipes. Very, very good. Oh. Okay, we now, I'm gonna leave the Veneto region for later. I'm gonna leave it to Alvise to talk you through that and move towards the coast of Liguria with Genova and the Cinque Terre. Here, there are some great food activities that can be done in the region. In Genoa, you can enjoy a walking tour of the old town and the Porto Antico, the old harbor, followed by lunch where you will taste some of the specialties of the Ligurian cuisine in one of the oldest osteria of the city. These are usually the farinata, which is kind of a thin focaccia bread made with chickpeas flour, anchovies, vegetable pies, and together with a glass of local white wine, which is called Il Bianchetto. You then move to a little coastal village on the seaside where you will learn from a local, from a local grandma how to prepare, how to recognize the different herbs and how to use them to prepare the panzotti. Panzotti are those that you can see in the photo, which are ravioli filled with ricotta and herbs and with a nuts sauce. So you will learn how to prepare the sauce, how to prepare the ravioli, and obviously you will also taste some real cheese focaccia DOP. The following activity is a trekking excursion from the center of Manarola, one of the Cinque Terre. Walking through an ancient path in the midst of gardens, you will reach the vineyards of Alessandro, which is a small local producers, where he will teach you to distinguish the grape varieties and the different methods of pruning and grape growing. As you can see, the vineyards in the Cinque Terre are not in an easy position. So harvesting is quite tricky and is very, very, very challenging. So he will tell you all about it. The path leads you in front of the Church of San Lorenzo, and with an extra effort, you will be in the wine cellar, where you will taste Alessandro's white wine, which is called Cinque Terre d'Ossi, accompanied by the typical Ligurian focaccia. And for our last activity in Liguria, it's time to enjoy a culinary experience, this time in La Spezia. You can stroll to La Spezia and visit its beautiful market. See the fish sellers with the fresh fish and seafood, and find the best regional vegetables. Depending on the season, you can find juicy tomatoes, green asparagus, aromatic mushrooms, or the precious artichokes that you can see here. In the company of your cook, you will buy the things that you will need to prepare your lunch. And after the market visit in the morning, you will go to a nice little restaurant where these beautiful lessons will take place. I mean, you will be absolutely surprised by the simple finesse of the dishes you are going to prepare, using only few but high quality ingredients. And at the end, you will enjoy one of the most delicious lunches prepared by yourself. We leave the coast and move towards central Italy, stopping in Emilia-Romagna. Well, when it comes to cuisine, the region of Emilia-Romagna is difficult to beat. Lovers of fine cuisine will delight in countless pasta dishes, rich vinegar, and finely aged cheeses that can be found in abundance throughout the region. Here are some of the activities that we can organize. So the first stop is usually in Parma, which is an ideal jumping off point for exploring the region, and probably best known for a particular dish, the prosciutto di Parma. Of all the prosciutto in Italy, prosciutto di Parma is the most highly esteemed, with EU protections in place to preserve its cultural heritage, and a curing process that takes up to 18 months to be completed. You will visit a prosciutto factory and learn all about the aging process, but also taste the various types of prosciutto, which taste very different based on how much they have aged. The next stop is obviously a Parmigiano Reggiano factory to taste the crown jewel of cheeses. Like for prosciutto di Parma, this product of Italian culinary engineering is legally protected with special EU regulations, meaning that the cheese can only be produced in 5 provinces: Parma, Reggio Emilia, Modena, and certain areas within Bologna and Mantova. The cheese's origins can be traced back to Benedictine monks practicing during the Middle Ages, and production methods have remained largely the same since then. Fresh milk, rennet, and fermented whey are combined within a copper cauldron, and the freshly formed curds settle at the bottom of the vat. This proto cheese is then fished out by a professional cheesemaker who places it in a mold, marks it with a unique ID, and immerses in a salt solution. From here, the cheese must rest for at least 12 months, after which it will endure a rigorous array of tests to ensure top quality. If all is well, the cheese will return to the rack for further aging or will be shipped off for sale. The next activity is in the historic city of Modena, known for its cotechino, which is a legally protected variety of pork sausage, but also considered one of the potential birthplace for the beloved tortellini pasta. But Modena, together with its neighboring city Reggio Emilia, is also home of one of the world's most esteemed vinegars, the traditional balsamic vinegar. While generic balsamic vinegar can be produced and sold cheaply throughout the world, only these 2 provinces are entitled to DOP designation by the European Union, allowing them to craft some of the world's finest expression. The production method begins with the reducing grape must, which is then allowed to ferment and ultimately oxidize into acetic acid. From here, the must is moved to a unique system involving 5 separate barrels, each one a different size. The smallest barrel is drained and a portion of the liquid in the second smallest barrel is added to the smallest. The second smallest barrel receives an injection from the third smallest barrel, and so on until the largest barrel has been tapped, which then receives the freshly reduced oxidized must. This fascinating process has been in place for centuries, with multiple operations across the provinces open for public tour. So in a tour of these balsamic vinegar factories, you will be able to see all these processes and learn all about the vinegar is done. And also, I mean, the reason why the Modena balsamic vinegar is so expensive. It's now time to move to Tuscany, the region home to Italy's most exported wine, Chianti, and the birthplace of Super Tuscans. Whilst Tuscany is a dream for enophiles, there's lots of food to be discovered too. The first activity is a walking tour of Florence, where, guided by a local expert, you can visit various markets. This one in the photos is the San Lorenzo market. If you've been to Florence, you have to go to San Lorenzo market. It's an amazing place. You can taste different type of food. If you're staying in Florence and and you have a kitchen, it's a paradise for foodies. You will also visit shop, artisan bakers, each with a story to tell about the history and culture of the city. You can taste everything that Tuscany is famous for: the wine, the bread, the olive oil, the salami, the cheeses, the gelato, the sweets, everything. We then move to the countryside to enjoy an insightful tour of a sustainable buffalo dairy farm and artisanal cheese producer. Here you will taste a variety of freshly made buffalo products, including creamy buffalo milk cappuccinos and buffalo ice cream. Enjoy a brunch-style tasting of the farmer's cheese and a little prosciutto to keep you going. For something really unique, we move farther south in the region and set sail on a fishing boat early in the morning and pull in the nets with a charismatic fisherman who's on a mission to protect the marine life of the Tuscan coast. He will tell you about his battles against the trawler fishermen and the importance of sustainable fishing. All of this against the backdrop of the stunning Maremma National Park, with stops at beautiful bathing spots and great food on board. It's an amazing experience, which is a little bit off the beaten path. Back on the mainland, it's time for a bit of exercise. So you can enjoy a light bike ride over the hills and down through the local villages to burn off the excesses of the previous days with a knowledgeable private cycling guide. The ride will take you to a beautiful vineyard where you will stop for lunch and wine tasting and to get a real understanding of the art that is winemaking. After an hour or two resting up after your cycling and vineyard experience, a professional pasta maker will take you through all the basics of creating great fresh pasta, including making the dough, using a pasta machine, and learning 3 shapes like farfalle, tagliatelle, and garganelli, which is those that you can see in the photo. You will also drum up the perfect tiramisu together. You'll then enjoy your creation with a view of the Tuscan hills and plenty of local good wine. And if you have an extra day, you can go to the Val d'Orcia in the fairy tale medieval village of Montalcino, which is gastronomically famous for the Brunello wine, but also for its production of honey. Here you will learn all about organic honey making, study the hives, and listen to the beekeepers. These producers also make the famous Brunello wine. You will get an insight into what makes the wine so sought after. And to the soundtracks of the busy bees, you will lunch with traditional Tuscan dishes and honey tasting, along with some delicious Brunello. We now move towards the south. We are in Puglia, the queen of southern Italy in terms of food tour. Here the cuisine is based largely on the superb vegetables, local cheeses, and seafood from the extensive coastline. Puglia has the quintessential Mediterranean diet and can be considered a foodie heaven. Such is the quality of the produce here. The first activity is in a local masseria set amongst olive groves and fig trees. On the property, they grow a wide range of produce, including wheat, vegetables, honey, and olive oil. You will delve into their production philosophy, which are focused on compatibility with their land and the use of heritage varieties. A cooking class with the farm chef will give you an introduction to the cuisine of Puglia, taking you through the types of ingredients used and their provenance. Next stop is a visit to an historic agrumeto, which literally is a citrus garden, an original defensive tower, and a large vegetable garden where to discover all the freshest ingredients of this land. You then assist to a demonstration of mozzarella making by a casaro, which means cheesemaker. In fact, the cheese will be made with milk from his herd cows that live nearby. It is fascinating to see how a stretched hard cheese, such as mozzarella, is made and how physical the process is. The next activity is a tour of two of the most famous towns of Puglia. Alberobello, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the only town with streets lined with the unique trulli, the small houses with the distinctive conical roof, and plenty of little shops and artisan boutiques where you can taste all of the delightful product of Puglia. And Polignano Mare, an impressive town clinging to a promontory suspended above the Adriatic's turquoise water. After visiting the fish market, you will stop in a stunning location right on the seafront and enjoy lunch focused on cuisine from the Adriatic Sea. After lunch, you'll be able to wander around the town with its many artisan boutiques before stopping for the most amazing coffee you have ever tasted. There is this place in Polignano which makes an incredible coffee, and you can accompany it with a delicious pasticciotto. Pasticciotto is a sweet pastry typical of Lecce, but can be found throughout Puglia, which is made of sweet pastry filled with custard cream. It's so delicious. It's filling, kind of filling, but it's amazing. Puglia has incredible farms that produces organic extra virgin olive oil from trees that are many centuries old. This land has been worked for thousands of years, and I mean, we are shown the remnants of the ancient Roman agricultural production here, along with items from habitation from the Middle Ages through until modern time. After seeing the ancient trees, you enjoy a degustation of a range of different olive oil. These allow you to compare the different tastes from the olive variety that are grown in the region, which, if you have done an olive oil tasting in Tuscany, you can feel how different, or in Liguria, for example, you can feel how different the Ligurian olive oil is from the Tuscan one and from the Puglia one. Well, I couldn't avoid including a food tour in Italy's capital, Rome. Here you will discover authentic culinary tradition, visit local markets and boutique wineries, and meeting producers of excellent made-in-Italy food. The first tour starts in the late afternoon usually, and you will enjoy a stroll through the charming neighborhood of Trastevere, one of Rome's most authentic and vibrant areas. Your expert guide will give you an overview of the Roman cuisine, telling you interesting stories about the products, the regional recipes, and introducing you to local vendors. Everything you will taste is very simple, but made with high quality and locally sourced ingredients. Some of the tasting locations include a century-old cheese shop, a cookies factory that dates back to the 1920s, and a traditional wine cellar. As a backdrop to your walk, Trastevere will absolutely surprise you, especially because you will wander along the intricate alleyways and hidden corners rigorously off the beaten path. The next day, it's time to meet in Campo dei Fiori, in the very heart of the city, for a unique cooking class. Food is a very important part of Italian life, and today you will learn to cook like an Italian, preparing a true Roman lunch from pasta to dessert. This class starts in the style of any true Roman's day, with a trip to the market to select the fresh ingredients. And then, I mean, the seasonal produce will help determine your menu. And your chef will then teach you how to make something like classic bucatini alla matriciana, saltimbocca alla romana, and obviously a dessert to end your meal. The following activity is in the beautiful Roman countryside of Frascati. Here, you will meet local wine producers who will take you for a stroll around the town. This is for sure one of the most authentic areas of Roman hills, where locals go over the weekend to enjoy some genuine food far from the crowd of the city center. You will enjoy a wine tour in the cellars of an historical farmhouse, followed by a traditional lunch served in pairing with 3 different wines. From Rome, many travelers that have limited time usually decide to visit the Amalfi Coast for a day, which is absolutely doable. If this is the case, you can definitely add a pizza making class along the way to learn how to make a proper pizza from the expert hand of an Italian pizzaiolo. There is nothing so rewarding like learning to make your own pizza. And I mean, it is much easier than you think, and it is so satisfying being able to make it at home. Our last stop before I leave you with Alvise is in Sicily, another must-visit destination for food lovers. Together with, I mean, the must-do sites, you will get in touch with a more unrevealed part of the island. Small fishing villages, wild canyons, local food producers, and artisans are the best part of a food tour in Sicily, immersed in the wonderful setting of the Sicilian nature. The first things that you will taste in a Sicilian tour, probably the minute after you step off the airport or the ferry, is the typical granita, thin flakes of ice flavored with fresh fruit or nuts and sugared, and often served over a brioche bun. The first tour activity starts then in Catania, and is a visit to the famous Pescheria, the colorful, loud, and smelly fish market, which is one of the oldest and biggest in Italy. It's held every morning except Sunday, and this market has everything one expects from an Italian market. Following the local traditions, fishermen will try to attract buyers with their loud voices and lots of gesticulations. Nearby, there are also fruit and vegetable stalls, as well as other delicious local produce from the mountain villages around the Etna. After a market tour, you will transfer to a famous wine cellar on Mount Etna and enjoy a delicious wine and produce tasting for lunch, followed by a short walk around the highest, most active volcano in Europe. The following activity is in the countryside near Ragusa, a province where cheese-making traditions are stronger than anywhere else in Sicily. After a cheese-making demonstration and a tour of the farm, you will sample some delicious cheese, including the famous ricotta, handmade by the proud owners. And close to Ragusa is Modica, the only city in Sicily with a chocolate-making tradition, which goes back to the 17th century. Here you will discover the local ancient method to make chocolate and visit a local laboratory where you will assist to a show cooking demonstration before you taste the food of the gods. I mean, I want to be there now. Continuing west along the coast, you will reach the coastal town of Trapani. Here, the local gastronomy is strongly influenced by the Arabs, who occupied the area for many centuries until the Romans took over. A hands-on cookery course with a local chef will give you the opportunity to learn more about the interesting culinary fusions while practicing and obviously tasting traditional regional recipes. In the afternoon, you will head to the southern town of Marsala, which is close to Trapani, internationally famous for its finest fortified wines, and enjoy a wine tasting and a tour of one of the best local wineries. Last stop in our Sicily tour is in Palermo, where you will enjoy a special guided foodie tour through the historic center, ranked among the best cities in the world for street food. During your work, you wander through carts and kiosks of street vendors, colorful markets, and local bakeries, whilst trying some of the best local specialities. These may vary, but depending on the season, and usually include arancini, which are fried rice balls stuffed with meat, sauce, and cheese, panelle, which is fried chickpeas pancake, and sfincione, which is Palermo's traditional pizza. All absolutely delicious. As you walk, the local guide will reveal some of the secrets of Sicilian street cuisine and explain the history of the city while pointing out notable monuments and historic streets, and end with a tasting of the famous Sicilian cannolo, which you can see in the photo. Well, it's now time to go to Venice. So Alvise, I'm just gonna unmute you.
Hello to everybody.
Great, we can hear
Thank you, Chiara. I really want to go to dinner right now. I don't want to stay here anymore.
I know, I'm the same.
Thank you so much. It was amazing also for me to really thank you.
Great. So as I said, we couldn't rely on the weather. So what we have done is that Alvise has recorded this video for you, which I'm gonna play now, and then he will be able to answer all your questions live. So let's go to Venice.
Buongiorno, my name is Alvise and I'm authorized tour guide in Venice, from Venice. So today the tour will be a Grand Canal tour and a food tour. But I want to give you a brief history of Venice. The history of Venice started 1,500 years ago, when all the barbarians, they tried to conquer Italy, and the scattered population of the mainland escaped the lagoon to find the last chance of survival. And then Venice, for many centuries, was the meeting point between East and West, a city of merchants. Then the decline started when Columbus discovered the Americas in 1492 and Vasco da Gama discovered the route of the spices to India in 1498. At that moment, Venice became an international center for the arts and for fun, until Napoleon, 1797. Then I want to give you some numbers and then we jump in the boat. So Venice is composed by 124 small islands, connected by 438 bridges. There are 170 bell towers, more than 2,000 streets, there are alleyways like this one, and then there are only 51,000 citizens, so it's a very small town. So now we're ready to go. Follow me. Okay, we're here in Rialto, we're ready to start the tour all over the Grand Canal, so follow me this way. We're gonna take a beautiful boat. It's like a limousine. It's made all in wood, made by hand. It's Serenella factory. It's a factory in Venice. It's made out of 3 types of wood. One wood is mahogany from Kenya. So follow me this way and I'm gonna show you the beautiful. Okay, buonasera Nicola. Nicola is our captain today. Buonasera. 6:20 and the light is so beautiful, it's sunset time. Venice is a matter of light, and so have a look how beautiful is the Grand Canal with the gondolas, the taxis, the public boats, some seagulls, and to the right you can see this palace with the obelisks on top. This is the Aman Hotel with the obelisks right here. This is one of the best hotels in Venice. It's Palazzo Papadopoli. It's a 7-star hotel. You can see the noble floor has some beautiful Murano chandeliers. Have a look at the stuccos and it's a really a beautiful palace. And you can see also some visitors right there enjoying a glass of Prosecco or a Spritz. Let's know that everything in Venice is by boat. We have bus boats, garbage boats, the ambulance, the hearse, the fire police station, the fire police boats, everything is by boat. So I want to show you also another beautiful palace. The name of the palace is Palazzo Pisani Moretta. It's that palace right there. That palace is private. And it's you can also rent for special events, weddings, and it's one of the most important venues during the Venetian carnivals. So you can see all the people dressed up with ancient customs, masks. So it's a pretty nice experience. So have a look with the Gothic flowered style. You can see the pointed arches typical of the 15th century, so 1400s in Venice. It's majestic. Palazzo Castelli. That palace, and it was the headquarters of the University of Venice. It's the headquarters of my university where I studied architecture. And then you can see a curiosity, it's the only traffic light in Venice. There we go. Have a look, it's always green there because we don't have an emergency. That traffic light is for the fire police station. So when there is an emergency, hold on, and it's red. We're reaching now the Accademia area where you can see the bridge, one of the 4 bridges crossing the Grand Canal. The Accademia Bridge. It's a bridge made in wood and steel. It was a temporary bridge at the beginning, but the Venetian liked, so it stayed. Next to it, to the left, there is also one of the most important museums in Venice, Accademia, Galleria dell'Accademia. You can see inside beautiful paintings of Carpaccio, Bellini, Tintoretto, Tiziano, and there is also the Vitruvian Man. The Vitruvian Man is the famous drawing made by Leonardo da Vinci. You can see only 3 days every 3 months, so be ready to be here when you can see that. We're still cruising all over the Grand Canal and at sunset time. Have a look at the light. Venice is a matter of light. And when we have these special days, the light gives the best. To the right you can see the Gritti Palace. It's one of the best hotels in Venice nowadays, but in the past that was a noble palace. So the nobles used to live on those palaces, and they used to decorate the palaces with frescoes, paintings. It was like a competition between noble families. My palace is nicer than yours. I'm richer than you. And this was the mood in the past here. You see Palazzo Barbarino. It's a pretty young palace made in the 17th century, so the end of the 1600s. And have a look at the mosaics. All made with the mosaics, and you can see to the right Murano glass blowers. The palace was owned by Murano glass blower master. Next to it, very close to, there is the Peggy Guggenheim collection. It's also called Can Never Finished. Why? They just stopped the construction of the first floor. Peggy Guggenheim lived in the palace for 30 years, and she's also buried in the garden with her 13 dogs. There are beautiful paintings of Picasso, Chagall, Magritte. It's a very, very interesting museum. Show you Palazzetto Sten, one of the oldest palaces of the Grand Canal. You can see the Gothic pointed arches, typical of the 14th century in Venice. Next to it, Carezzonico, a Baroque palace, house of the Rezzonico family. To the right, Palazzo Grassi, the youngest palace built overlooking the Grand Canal. 1762. It's now owned by François Pinault, and it's a very important venue for the contemporary exhibition. Next to it, Palazzina Grassi, boutique hotel, all decorated by Philippe Starck. To the left here you can see a gondola, and also you can see a very romantic riverside. It's called Riverside of Wine, because in the past the merchants, they used to unload and trade wines. And now we are approaching to the beautiful Rialto Bridge, made in 1588. Superseded a section of wooden bridges. The wooden bridges collapsed many times, and at the end they say, okay, let's make a beautiful bridge, and they did that. Behind you can see the beautiful terrace of Fondaco dei Tedeschi, a panoramic terrace overlooking Venice. It's such an historical building, and it's turning a luxury mall. Okay, we're here in Rialto. We just finished the boat tour. Now we're ready to go for a food tour. One of the most typical places you can have some chicken and wine. So follow me this way. We're gonna go through one of the most narrowest streets in Venice. here at Sepa. Sepa is one of the most typical Venetian places. Sepa means in Venetian dialect cuttlefish. It's a very typical fish here in Venice. So today we're going to try some cicchettis. That's the typical Venetian food. The cicchettis, the translation is like tapas. They're like the Spanish tapas. The cicchetto could be a piece of bread, it could be a meatball, it could be a scallop, and that's the way we live our life here in Venice. So let's have a look at what they have here. Yeah. I just want to show you what they have. It's so delicious. Let's start from some vegetable and smashed bread. To the right of the scallops, you can see some zucchini with the ragu of calamari. Very, very fresh and very delicious too. Behind, cepoine roste. Baby cuttlefish with some polenta. To the left, crostino con piovra. That's a polenta with some octopus. Very, very fresh and delicious too. Then you have secchi in umido. That's a plate with some cuttlefish with tomato sauce too and polenta. To the left, another piece of polenta with baccalà mantecato. You cannot see baccalà because it's fresh, so when you order, they just put the baccalà on top of the polenta. And then zucca in sour. Sour means sour, and it's typical. The onions are very typical from the mainland, but we reinterpreted the onions with some pumpkin in this case, but sardines with onions are very local, and also prawns are so delicious. Then you can see some meatballs. We have vegetarian meatballs. Behind, tuna and eggplants. To the right, beef and salami. Those are my favorites. Depends by the day. Depends by the day. So today is Wednesday. How does that change? La frittura di Sepa. That's another very typical dish of Venice. That's fried fish. It could be calamari, sardines, it could be vegetables, prawns, shrimps, all the type of food. It's very, very good. A glass of Pinot Grigio on the paradise. Other risottos on Friday. On the Saturday, that's my favorite, mushrooms, prawns, and saffron. Then you can see on Monday, fatto con grande typical salad. But have a look at the wine. What about wine? The typical wine from Venice, we're talking about Prosecco. Venice obviously is a town where we don't have any vineyard, and the vineyard there is from the mainland. So Prosecco is very, very typical. It's just like 1 hour from here. And you can see the gentleman is just pulling some draft Manzoni in this case. Hello, buonasera. From draft Manzoni, and next to it there is the Traminer, very sweet wine from the mainland. The Pinot Nero. Also, they do have a very good selection of draft beers, IPA.
Okay, thank you so much, Alvise. I mean, I want one of those polpette now.
Yes, they're so crispy outside and so soft inside that you will love the meatballs.
I bet so. I mean, I haven't been in Venice for the past, I think 1 year and a half. I was there 1 year ago. So I definitely need to come back and do some cicchetti tours. What more can you tell us about food tour in Venice? I mean, usually, how many stops do you do on a tour?
So the tour, actually, so I like the tour. I never saw myself explaining, so it was very interesting also for me. So anyway, the tour that you saw was like a Grand Canal tour of 1 hour. So it's very interesting to see the city from the water perspective, and 1 hour of walking tour with the 2 stops. So we can say that it's like a pub crawls, right? So a pub crawl, like, so we stop in 2 very typical places. where most of the times you will see only locals, like my friends or people like I know, because it's, as I said before, it's a small town. So it's like, ciao, ciao, ciao on the streets. So it's,
Although Venice is so crowded with tourists, when you do the food tour, you're able to go off the beaten path.
yeah, I definitely go off the beaten paths. Yeah. Now everything is a little bit off the beaten path, which is good, let's say, for the locals. You know, the season is pretty strange, we know, for many reasons, but I always choose the very hidden places. You really know, you need to know where are these places to reach, because they're very hidden. Venice is a maze, and once you find these little places that are typical, they're not fancy. You don't have waiter with tie serving super expensive white food. It's so easy, and the atmosphere, you really are into the city, into the local food. As I was explaining, Chiara, the local food, we're talking about seafood most of the times. We're on a lagoon, so there are so delicious sea bass, sea breams, not on the canal, right? On the lagoon, I'm talking about. The canals are pretty, we cannot fish on the canals right here, but so we can talk about stockfish. The baccalà mantecato is the creamy stockfish, very typical recipe with the cicchetto. The meatball is pretty good too, so that we consider our the meatball a typical food, because it's like a cicchetto. The cicchetto is like the tapas. It's a small bite. And usually it's our aperitivo. It's like an antipasto.
Okay.
And usually the 2 stops, I try to do 2 stops. They're pretty good. And the wine is always good. It's mostly white wine, but obviously sometimes they like red wine, especially when they come after Tuscany. They order Brunello, you know. Okay, Brunello, you know, it's from Tuscany. Let's get a glass of Prosecco. But I have to be very flexible, you know. That's that's how it is.
As we've seen today, I mean, going through the regions, you can see how different the food in Italy is. So, I mean, although Italy is a very small country compared to other countries around the world, the food is so different. I mean, even from Florence going to Lucca, the food is very different.
It is definitely. We think that I mean, I think the Venetians are like more from the south. We're from Amalfi. We have the seafood is really part of our culture. You should try also the risotto of cuttlefish with black ink. That's really, you will have like black teeth, but that's not a problem. But it's so delicious with a glass of dry prosecco, prosecco or Pinot Grigio. It's like, it's really it's hard to explain.
There is a question from Jane. So on your dinner walking tour in Venice with 2 stops, is it enough for dinner? So for this 2-hour tour, approximately how much is a Venice tour with the Grand Canal tour?
So usually there are 3 tapas each person, each stop. So
6 in total.
it depends. I have 6 tapas and dinner. Everything is quite personal, but in this case, it will be enough. My experience when I led these tours, it's always enough. And we always end the tour with a very good gelato, which is always, I have there are some good spots.
And the wine and the gelato is pretty much for a dinner.
Definitely, it is. Yeah. It is. It could be a dinner. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And usually, how much is the Venice tour of the Grand Canal plus the food tour? So the 2-hour combined.
What do you mean? What is saying?
The price.
It's about 280.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I always let everything is included the price concerning the cicchettis and the wine. I try, you know, my job is so beautiful and so difficult sometimes. So clients order me like, we want a bottle of Brunello. Okay, it's like €8 a bottle. It's kind of so you try to. But anyway, that's not a problem at all. It's always like that. And they're always happy. I mean, the atmosphere and the places and the Venice itself, it gives happiness to the people, and especially with doing the food tour, it's always something sure. Yeah. Otherwise, there is also the 2 hours food tour with 3 stops.
Okay.
I'm actually finishing my spritz right now. Just want to.
Alvise, thank you so much. Thank you for the video. Thank you for taking the time to record it and for being here today. If there's no other question, I'll move on to my last slide.
Yes.
I mean, if you stay there, if there's question coming in, I'll read them to you.
For sure.
So for my last line, before we finish, I want to give you 5 reasons why you should book a food tour in Italy. So the first one, it is a great introduction to local food. And this food knowledge will absolutely come in handy during the rest of your stay in the area. For example, you might discover that you love a very local, savory, deep fried snack that you will never, that you would never have tasted without an explanation. Or you might discover that you love a very specific local cheese and buy some for the rest of your stay. So it's great, I mean, to do, if you're going to do just one food tour, do it at the beginning of your stay. Number 2, it deepens your cultural connection. So food tours in Italy are about so much more than just food, as we have seen. So for example, the history of the Tuscan peposo, which is a stew, is intimately linked to the famous Italian architect and artist Filippo Brunelleschi, and you will usually learn all of this during the tours. Number 3, as we were just discussing, it's a meal substitute. So arrive hungry and don't make a dinner reservation for that day. You will have enough food to last until the evening. Don't forget to tell the food tour about any allergies or food preferences so that the tour can be modified based on your needs. Number 4, get to know the locals. I mean, your guide will not bring you to places that are crowded, as Alvise has just explained, because he'll want you, he'll want to have the owner's full attention. Because of this, food tours usually head away from the crowds into smaller streets. The owners at the stops are waiting for you and will welcome everyone like old friends and will be happy to chat. It's a great way to learn something about, you know, the local people and to get to know the locals. Number 5, smaller groups are better. So if you cannot do a private food tour, then I would recommend to join a group tour that is no bigger than 8 people. And this because you're going into small shop, into small artisan boutique, and you want to be able to hear the guide. You want to be able to interact with the owner. So, you know, the smaller the group, the better. So thank you so much for being here today again. Oh, there is another question. For Alvise, I'm unmuting you. So for the Venice tour, is there a minimum or maximum number of people? And the rate of 280 is per person, regardless of the number of people.
No, the 208. So no, there is not a limited number. I mean, 8 maximum is the tour that I lead for the same reason that you were saying, Chiara. And 280 is the price for 2 people.
Okay.
It's for 2 people. Yeah.
Perfect, great.
Usually the private, obviously, as you said, Chiara, the private is always better, but you know, 8 people is the maximum. Otherwise, it will be too much. So I have to go to the bathroom. I have to stop and this and that, and you know what I mean. So
Absolutely.
it could be. So that's more quality, and I can stay also 20 minutes more, and I can enjoy the gelato. And I have to say, and I also eat and drink with the clients. I have to say, so because it's part of the experience, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Carol, the rate is for 2 people. It's 280 for 2. Correct?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And then obviously the price will vary. If it is a group of 4, then there will be a different rate. If it is a group of 8, it will be a different rate. 280
exactly.
is the price for 2 people, which is usually the normal number for a private tour. So for a couple.
Yes, if there are kids, sorry if I interrupt you, Karen. If there are kids, we try to, obviously the kids, they cannot drink like wine, right? Even if I drank my glass of wine when I was, I drank my first glass of wine when I was 13 years old, but that's another pair of shoes. Exactly, brava, yeah. If there are kids, they obviously pay less, and we try to let them drink like juices, Coca-Cola or something, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Something that they can enjoy.
Well,
Perfect.
exactly. Maybe the kids, they can enjoy a slice of pizza, so I can include a small stop in a slice of pizza. So that's very, being flexible is always
Yeah, I mean, as
a
I was
good thing.
saying, it's usually very good to let us know if there's any specific request, if there's any allergy, anything, so that we can let the guides know and they can customize the tour based on your needs, obviously, on your client's needs.
Exactly.
So thank you very much, Alvise. It was great. It was amazing talking.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now I'm starving and I need to go and prepare some dinner.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here today again. And our next webinar is on the 4th of November. And we are going to talk about hiking in Italy. So this time is going to be something more healthy. We're learning all about hiking tours in Italy, where's the best spot, Oh, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Carol. And so I'm going to send you the recording. I'm going to send you the link to the next webinar. And in the meantime, take care. If you need anything, you know where to find me. See you next time.